All right. We are live. Hey, welcome to Sunday Night Live. I am Dr. Paula Ruffin, and I am here with my good friend, Ken Somerville. Ken, welcome into the show tonight.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's going to be a blast talking to you instead of sitting in the background during your show. I actually get to be on
Yes.
stage and give you a hard time.
So, little fun fact for anybody who doesn't know, Ken produces the show. So he's always in the background watching everything, putting up all the banners. And we've been talking, well, I think this is week 4 now, that we're talking about detox and all the impact that the environmental things have on us. We start Detox with the Doc tomorrow, and that is 10 days guided with me through a healthy detox. We'll talk about that as well. And so I thought, how appropriate to have Ken in here, since his channel is It's All About the Biology. And so we want to come to we're coming to you from all these channels. So depending on what channel you're watching from, please jump on over. So if you're coming in from my channel, Dr. Paula Ruffin, jump over to It's All About the Biology, give that a subscribe, and vice versa, and help us to grow all of our channels, because one of the things that Ken and I originally connected on was just the microbiome, what's affected in the environment, how it affects our bodies, what's affected in our food and our soil, our air, our water. And so here we are, Ken. And it's so nice to have you up on stage here and having this really important conversation. So give us a little bit of a backstory on you, because I think you also have a very interesting story when it comes to, how you got to this point with It's All About the Biology.
Well, basically a health crisis, and that's for a lot of people out there. We're facing, a health crisis in our life, from various factors. And I started researching, health. Like I grew up in a situation where my mother was into organics. She actually helped save my father's life by changing our diet and, nutrition, and understanding that, the health is actually coming from our food. So that was my growing up. And then when I had my health crisis, that's the direction I looked in. Now mine was, more pain, and muscle spasms, etc. So I needed to find something to get off the pharmaceuticals that was actually melting my brain. I was like an 8 or 9 year old. I couldn't function as a normal human. And I found that, and it was THC and CBD. And so I looked at, if that's going
as an 8-year-old.
No, this is my health crisis as a 40-year-old.
Okay. I was like, what?
No, I wasn't quite that young when I started
Get into your parents' stash or what?
But, understanding that our bodies need that nutrition. And then I wanted to grow my own medicine. So I really started researching what's the healthiest method to grow my own food and to grow my own medicine. And that's where I started delving into the soil, how a plant grows. And I literally took it down to how a cell divides. And for anyone that doesn't know, all organic life, whether it's human, whether it's a plant or an animal, we all rely on cell division. So I looked at, okay, who controls cell division? And that's where I found out it's literally the biology. That's actually the construction crew that builds our cells, as a heart cell, a liver cell. And then it's also the biology that breaks the components down from what we're consuming for a human. And then if I want all those building blocks to build healthy cells, I have to focus literally on the soil, because without the biology in the soil breaking those building blocks out of the sand, silt, clay, and organic material, I can't get it into my body because it's not in the plants and animals I'm consuming. So I literally went, biology. So that's macrobiology, microbiology, quantum biology, right down to areas where they can only see it by the energetic flows that are in the cells themselves. And when you go that deep, it really becomes simple. You just go, it's all about the biology. So if I stop harming biology and I add biology, whether it's in my soils or in my body, I'm going to get healthy.
Yeah, and if you, I mean, it is quite, it's simple but complex all at the same
Yeah.
time, and it makes so much sense. Where I think so many people they just they don't make any kind of connection, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that's also a very frustrating piece to me. This has happened multiple times in practice to me, and it actually just happened recently where I have a patient who has she's had her whole life, which is why she's working with me, but she's had gastrointestinal issues for many years, and
Yeah.
she has some very odd unexplainable health issues, and she's, I think, in her late 60s or something. But she told me that, she went to see her doctor recently, and he's telling her, no, there's nothing, her digestive issues have nothing to do with what she's eating, has nothing to do with environment. It has nothing to do. I mean, I'm like, that is just malpractice to me, that medical doctors are even saying these things to people, and that they're so far downstream, and their heads are so far in the sand. And I didn't want to like immediately jump on here and bash medicine. And I really try not to do that, because we do really try to just go as far upstream and help people. But it's frustrating also, because if this woman didn't know me and
Yeah.
didn't know that, and same thing with you, like you had to go search and seek to get the help you
Mhm.
needed. No one was offering that information to you. And that's where the true breakdown in our healthcare system comes from, I think, is that we
Well,
just we don't have that collaboration with the medical system.
well, the medical system unfortunately has been trained to push medications, and now RFK Jr. has actually, mandated that they have to start learning about nutrition, and they've changed the, how we eat, and that food pyramid we're supposed to be eating. They've flipped it upside down. All the things that they were telling people were good for them is actually not good for them. And the less processed foods that we eat, because in the processing, part of things, they're adding chemicals, they're adding, additional sugars and all these different things in that aren't good for us. And if we can stay away from processed food as much as possible, if we can consume liquids into our body that are actually good for us instead of harming us, like, typical city water, you have, components in there that are designed to eliminate the biology that exists in the water to make it safe for you to drink. But when you consume that and you put it into your stomach, it's killing the biology that's keeping you alive, that's breaking down those building blocks of the salad you're eating or the steak you're eating. It gives you health and vitality. It's killing that biology that's keeping you alive. So the less we can do on that side, consuming healthier food, consuming healthier water, drinking actual natural fruit juices that, you get the fruit and you make the juice yourself. It's going to be more attuned to our bodies, and our bodies can use those building blocks that are coming in. But you need to have those prebiotics, and probiotics getting into your gut, because every time you drink a glass of city water, every time you grab a cup of coffee from, wherever you're buying your coffee from, they're not using good water. They're using normal city water. You're getting those damaging chemicals into your system, which is killing off your biology, which is your immune system. And we're talking about immune health and detoxing. Well, your body in its natural detox is using the biology that's in your liver, that's in your kidneys, that's in your stomach. But every time you grab that coffee, you're killing off a certain amount of that biology that's doing this job. So if you can find anything that's adding biology into the system and not taking biology out of the system, your detox and your immune response for the colds and flus is 100% better than anybody else that's out there.
That is so well said. And I think that's so important because when we talk about detox, there is this element of it's an elimination diet. So
Mhm.
this is what I do, right? It's elimination diet. And you're talking about the building blocks and making sure we add to the building blocks. And I love that. I do always talk about we have to fill the tank. We have to
Yeah.
make sure that the foundation is strong. And so one of the things about eliminating things in our daily lives, eliminating things that are inflammatory, that are full of toxins. But then I think that's also where so many people, again, they don't have the proper information, which is why I love our channels, because we're getting this information across that elimination piece is, it's a fraction of what people need to do, that they have to now fuel. They have to add the fuel in, and that
Mhm.
comes in the form of whole foods, not processed foods, foods that come from the earth in a way that the soil has not been depleted, foods that come from animals that were treated humanely. It's like we have to look at this whole dynamic of where our food comes from. And chicken doesn't just appear on a plate. Like we have to go, okay, how did it get here? What was its life like?